As you can see, this is a tailgating party.
Everyone's headed to the football game in true Chicago form.
Yeah, no, not at all. This is a gigantic, 20 car, 30 car pileup.
Yeah.
And we're busy. 51 is busy.
We're epically busy dealing with epic proportions, epic accidents.
And there happens to be somebody that
Hey, ladies, you
we
talking
care
about the Joe Cruz episode?
Yeah, we are.
Cool.
Speaking of epic.
I heard it's pretty Joe Cruzy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
goodness.
cruisy. It's cruisy.
yeah.
We needed more cruise.
I
you
agree.
know?
Anyway, carry on talking about me.
Thanks, bud.
Absolutely. This episode should be called Cruising for a Bruising.
Hey,
Hey.
that's your first one today.
I know. Actually, unfortunately, Cruz's new girlfriend, Chloe, is found in this horrible pileup. I'm so sad about it. No, I am.
Is Brett? No.
Yeah, she's sad about it. She cares about Cruz.
Of course.
And so here we are.
Here we are, saving lives.
Listen, in this episode, we've got the jaws of life. We've got the medvac. We've got the helicopters. We've got a million Indy cars. We have fires. We have water going. We're in the middle of a highway. We're way out in God's country, and Ambo 61 is leading the charge.
Yeah, we are. We shut down a highway, and Ambo 61 is leading the charge.
Accurate.
I like being with the group when we're in the field. I mean, sometimes I do doze off, but no, I like honestly seeing the camaraderie and the interaction of the Chicago Fire family, our group. It's never dull, especially when these are tedious days. This is epic. This is huge. I mean, a highway is legit shut down with. There's at least 100 cars that are all our stunt cars. So this is huge. And what brings you through it, at least for me, is the camaraderie between these guys.
Listen, we're usually shooting in the dead of the city, and while the Chicago skyline is lovely, here we are amongst the autumnal leaves. And that's rare and lovely for us. Sort of like a field trip, just out here in the outskirts of Chicago.
An extended field trip.
An extended field trip. In this season, we see a lot of the people in the firehouse being affected in their personal lives, and the house having to rally around them, like lots of loss and lots of suffering in our personal relationships. And so this season is kind of about how we all are continuing to band together and support each other, and this episode is no different, except this time it's for Joe Cruz.
She was trying to do us a favor and pick up some donuts for us. Next thing we know, she's in the center of this massive pileup.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really here to save Cruz's girlfriend. If anyone else gets saved along the way, that's just gravy.
We got a lot of giving fingers, people. Hang on 1 second. We're trying to find Chloe.
Yeah. You'll be all right for 5 minutes while we look for Chloe.
Don't leave me. Don't leave me. Okay, go. No, don't leave me. No, go.
Which
Don't
is it
leave
gonna be,
me.
buddy?
Don't leave me.
I'm
Don't
going to
leave
be
me.
on television.
All right, go be on TV.
Chicago Fire, Wednesday nights on NBC.
There you go.
It's a pileup. So we're shooting up north in Waukegan, outside of the city, but we respond to a call. There's someone in the firehouse who knows someone in the crash, so it's kind of heightens the stakes. And as you see, I think you probably got a lot of footage, but it's a pretty nasty big pileup.
The other thing we're doing is we're making a movie. We make a movie a week. That's what we do. So we're having a very exciting time, and we haven't had a helicopter for a long time. So
Yeah, it was maybe like season 2. We had a helicopter crash or something.
Yeah.
So we get the helicopter flies in and
so we're back, folks.
medevac.
We're back.
Yeah. I got to learn the city by shooting locations. So if we'll go down to the south side, Hyde Park, we'll go inland, we're up north now. And it's just different pockets and neighborhoods, and I think it really, it's how you get to know the city and know the people in different areas.
I think we've seen in the 7 years that we've been going more of Chicago than most Chicagoans.
Probably.
We've been all over. When you live together, as firefighters and first responders do, and paramedics, you're together for those hours, and you have to go through thick and thin together, and that's what creates that vibe, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's the chemistry.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, we have good chemistry, and sometimes that goes down the camera. I hope you haven't seen all of the stuff we do. But hey. We have great cliffhangers, and the writing this year has been spectacular. So
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a loved one of someone in the firehouse. So the helicopter comes in, they get medevaced, airlifted to the hospital. We continue on, I think, later in the script, maybe into next episode. So technically, yes, there's a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, and I think they were kind of pulling out the stops for this one.
Yeah.
And hats off to the crew. And everyone, I think people were up here at 2:30, 3 in the morning setting up for this day. So it takes a village sometimes.
Yeah. Best crew in Chicago. We came first year and they've been here the whole time. And that's what makes this alchemy. So when you say why are we a family, we've been together a long time.
I mean, the sequences, there's a huge pile up on the freeway. Cruz is talking to his girlfriend, and she's on the freeway as it happens. We turn up to the scene, and we follow the whole scene with Cruz as he jumps out of the squad. We follow him through all the different pile-ups to find Chloe in the car, and then we extricate her. A helicopter flies in. We take her on a backboard to the helicopter and take her to Med. So this is the backbone of our show. So we love doing this. It's always different too. No two things are ever completely the same. We've taken cars apart. Things can go wrong. You have to improvise. It's always something different, and it's good to be outside and have movement and energy, and working with the real firefighters and paramedics and stuff. So it's it's great. It's what we signed up for. We're sort of a dysfunctional family that works together as an amazing team, and they help each other out, just like the first responders in real life. They're very passionate people, and they've got a tight-knit community, and that's why they operate so well as a team. So we come together as a team for Joe and his girlfriend, and all show up to Med to show our support and see if there's anything we can do for him. Yeah. The winter finale, and this story, like this investigative reporter, her name's Naomi Graham, and she comes in. She's got this story where these trailers keep blowing up, and there's been a few deaths, and she's investigating these trailer fires, and she brings Casey on to help her investigate, and he figures out that they have these faulty refrigerators, and so they get into it, they investigate it. She writes an article basically declaring this sort of fraudulent company, and then the company retaliates, and it's a family-run company, but they're trying to shift stock around and sell it through shell companies, and they get themselves into trouble, and they retaliate against Casey and Naomi. So it ends in a sort of I don't know how to say it, sort of, let's say, there's a violent end. Yeah, no, it's going to be good. It's going to set up, I think, the rest of the season, which should be great. We haven't really done something like this where we've been allowed to do a single shot following. Normally we have to cover a lot of stuff, and as actors you always want a challenge. So when you're doing a take that goes for probably 3 or 4 minutes, and it's one dynamic, shot. That's really exciting, So don't screw up your line.
Well, what you are seeing here is the 9th episode of the 7th season. This is our big winter finale, or as Derek has so lovingly calls it, the Joe Cruz winter finale. Basically, there's been a giant highway accident here, and my girlfriend Chloe has unfortunately been caught up in the middle of it. So I am completely distraught, and we all come guns blazing. I guess engines blazing would probably be a more appropriate term. To just try and save the day. And mean, this is probably one of the biggest accident scenes I've ever seen us do. It feels like we're filming a movie out here. It stretches in like almost a mile of a highway, and there's just overturned cars and fire and smoke and water. It's like all of the elements of Chicago fire at its best. Exactly, this is a great example of how much firefighters and paramedics are capable of, and just exactly how talented they can be and the skill set that they have to offer. I mean, there's so many complicated tools just to open up one door to save one human being. But when you work in the way that these firefighters do, it's such a well-oiled machine. And really, they're the guys that deserve all the credit, because it's like the tools, as Chikarodis, who's our technical advisor, will tell you, are for the most part tools of ignorance, because they're usually meant to break stuff apart. But they are used to save lives, and that is because they're in the right hands. And I think that's what you see in so many ways here today. You get to see how firefighters are on the scene, putting their hands and saving lives day in and day out. First of all, you can't get away from an on-set location. It feels like you're really involved in the moment. Especially with this scene, we had an entire pull-up right now, which was one giant long Steadicam sequence that takes us from the beginning of the accident all the way to the end of the accident. And when you get to kind of see it in that scope, you get to see just how grand it really is. Because, you know, you get to kind of be in the middle of this all, especially when you're on location and you have such an enormous scene. You can't not feel like you're a part of it. You can't not feel like it's actually happening to you and you're really in the moment. When you're running past people who are bloodied and their car is a total wreck and everything is mangled, it's hard not to have some sort of human feeling for that. So it makes the job, I think, easier. But in general, I mean, I've been in Chicago since 2004. I think it's the best city in the country, so it makes it the best place to film. You know, I think in the way that firefighters always do. You know, they know how to support each other in this kind of very quiet way. And it's funny because firefighters, you don't see them kind of linger in emotion too much. They usually kind of move away from that and they're joking and busting each other's chops left and right, because that's just kind of how they deal with some of the most horrific things any human could ever see. And I think that this is a perfect example of that. You know, like it's like once we find out that Chloe is being sent to the hospital, everyone at 51 rallies behind Cruz and everyone's at the hospital and they refuse to leave until Cruz says, no, go out. This city deserves the best firefighters in the city out there. And so it's like, you know, and that is exactly the kind of family that you will always see at a fire department, regardless of whether it's on this show or a fire department somewhere in Tulsa or somewhere in Phoenix. Like it's like that kind of camaraderie exists in every firehouse I've ever been in. Personally, I don't know how you don't put a relationship between mine and Chloe to the test. I mean, any accident is going to test the patience of the other person. It's going to test the resilience of the person who's been through the accident. It's just that, you know, there are so many things that go along with something of this magnitude that human beings just have to deal with on a daily basis that are really minute to some people but can be enormous to others. And beyond that, I mean, I think in some way every relationship is tested when you're dealing with a moment of tragedy. And so, you know, there'll be tensions between friends, there'll be incredibly emotional, vulnerable, pure moments between parents and lovers. So it's like, you know, you can't not step away from something like this without having a real emotion. And so it's like, I think that that's what's going to come to the head. This is definitely the winter finale. There's definitely going to be some things left up in the air. So you got to see it and then you got to come back. 2019.